I think I was very inspired by the idea that they wanted to know about the new India. And my PhD had actually been on women working in the glamour industry in India. And it was like it was a moment when India was winning at beauty pageants, which had inspired this whole new group of women to actually leave home for the first time and go into jobs in the glamour industry, really seeking independence in a different way. And so I was really inspired that this was a story of a new India that we hadn't heard before. And so that was sort of the inspiration for wanting to turn that whole PhD into a book for a lay audience. There was no other research on women working in the glamour industry. As my PhD supervisor would say, this is very unglamorous topic for a sociologist to take on. But the issue is that it was actually about women and labor, and trying to understand what is the labor that women are doing when they're entering this. It is gendered labor, right? Because dressing up is supposedly something that women do. So what is the laborious part of it? And so I think just discovering that the depth of the kind of work that women had to do on themselves, create a brand for themselves, the regimentation of their bodies, all of that was very eye-opening for me, and did move me away from, and I used to be a feminist activist, working in a feminist group. So the idea that women in beauty pageants were actually objectifying themselves or were, commodities, that was very fundamentally challenged, because women were making their own choices and choosing to be part of an industry. So it was actually more what the industry looked like rather than the women themselves who were trying to just make the best of a situation and really move up in life in a way. So lots challenged, actually. Turning a PhD into a book for a lay audience is very different, right? Because for a PhD, you're writing for an audience that knows more than you do about a subject. For a lay audience, they know much less than you about a subject. So the whole entire approach was different. So thanks to this fellowship, actually, I rewrote my entire thesis in a totally different way. I brought out the stories. And it took a long time to do it, because as the research sort of cooked in my head and the findings settled, I realized that I was getting new insights. And so the whole writing process happened in stages, I would say, along with life as usual, having children, doing a job, alongside all of it. But I think at the end, the final burst of energy came from a writing workshop I went for in France with American writers. And it actually changed the way I looked at myself. So all this time I thought of myself as an academic, and suddenly I actually realized that no, I'm a writer. And when you see yourself as a writer, actually you give yourself an authority that is very different. And it was a process of finding my voice actually through that. So it went through different phases. But I guess that's the journey of every book, has its own path. I was one of the early fellows. So I was in round 5, 2009, 2010. I had a 3-year-old baby. I had a newborn. And I was actually seeking time and space to really be able to put it all down, in a different way. And so with the fellowship money, I actually rented a small office so I could go away and, have a space where I could be away from being a mother and really write. So I really think more than write in the first 6 months. And it took me the first 6 months to realize that I had to junk everything I had already and start from scratch. But I think it was a really important intervention at a critical moment in my life that many women, I think mothers, would really benefit from. Well, my book was for a lay audience, and it's been 5 or 6 years, 7 years, I think, since it was published almost. And I found a very wide and varied audience, actually. I think because it sort of talks about fashion and feminism, I found a lot of young women very interested in it. I found a lot of, feminist groups interested to understand, a lot of people working on labor who are interested in understanding it. So I found that it has an audience that I hadn't imagined, especially the young college audience. I hadn't really imagined that they would be an audience for my book, but they have. I would say it was really the discovery of a new generation of working women in India. We don't see women in the modeling industry or in the glamour business as working women. And that's, I think, the big message. This is labor, this is work, this is women getting financially independent, empowering themselves in different ways. And that to me is like the heart of the book.